Oh, hi there. My name's Lauren, and I'd like to think that I'm perpetually lost in the right direction, which basically means that I'm pretty sure I'm doing life wrong, but because I'm acting intentionally and authentically, life just kind of happens to work out in that silly little serendipitous way it sometimes does. So today I thought I would talk about something that is of interest, has been of interest for the past, say, 2 years or so, pretty much since COVID has started, and that is national parks, specifically Yellowstone National Park, because I have personal experience there, and not in the way you might think. But before we get into it, I'd like to give a shout out to today's sponsor, REI. Just kidding, I don't have any sponsors. Yellowstone National Park is America's very first national park established by President Theodore Roosevelt. Yellowstone is about 2.2 million acres large. It contains a lot of wildlife. Basically, in a sentence, it's known for bison, Old Faithful, and the Grand Prismatic Hot Spring. But I bet you that's only part of why you're watching this video. You want to get educated on how to get a job. So I'm going to tell you about how I got a job working in Yellowstone National Park. So here's how it started. I was really bored one summer after my freshman year of college. The ripe age of 19, and I didn't have a job back at home. I did at school, I worked at the on-campus library, but back at home for 3 months, I didn't have any job. I got a lot of nagging, like, Lauren, you need to get a job. Lauren, you should start reaching out to places. For whatever reason, it was just really hard to get a job, which basically fueled what I'm going to call revenge employment. Before the next summer rolled around, I was like, you know what? If I'm gonna get a job, I'm gonna get a job. So I remembered a very important detail that I forgot that I knew, and it was that my dad used to work in Yellowstone National Park in the 80s. And I was like, yo, Dad, what's that thing that you did in the mountains? He was like, what thing? And I was like, you know, that thing. And he was like, oh, that thing. Yeah, no, that was Yellowstone. And so that's where that idea came from. I applied online through a company called Xanterra, and they work with a lot of different national parks, basically making like park resorts. I think I applied in October, and I officially got word of my employment that I was accepted, I think in January. All that entailed was a phone interview, someone from, and I applied for housekeeping too because that's all I knew. So someone from the head of housekeeping somewhere, some office in the park called me, and they asked me a few questions and I answered them as best I could. And then a little while later I heard back and they're like, yo, congrats, you get to work in the park. And after that, as the months went on, they would start to email me different like little bits of information, and the closer it got, they would give me these itineraries, info packets, basic like check-in information, things that I just generally needed to know to check myself in. And let me tell you, it was getting there, it was not what I expected. The first 2 weeks were just terrible. And I think that's a very common thing. I don't know about other national parks, but I know my experience in Yellowstone, it's pretty miserable because the season opens, I want to say mid-April, and there's not a lot of people there, and they're also super understaffed. So people don't really start rolling in until around like mid-May or so. So I was scheduled to work basically for those 3 months, from May until July, and then I ended up extending my stay to be like early August. Yeah, the first 2 weeks was awful. You didn't have any friends. Oh yeah, there's no Wi-Fi in the park. There's Wi-Fi, there's employee Wi-Fi, but it's so bad it just might as well not even exist. You might be able to get a little something on your day off, like in the morning when you wake up when no one's on their phones, but it's basically non-existent. One time my roommate and I drove 2 hours to a Walmart to also like download playlists and get snacks and stuff, and when we got there, when we started scrolling through our phone, we were freaking out in the middle of the cereal aisle with how fast the internet was, and I think people thought we were crazy. And not only that, but you're working in the middle of like the most desolate region of the United States. I mean, Wyoming and even Montana, which the park covers both states. It kind of blends into Montana a little bit. I mean, both states are like, what is there? Like, there's not much around. After a while though, I started connecting with my coworkers. We started going hiking. I kind of started getting my sea legs, or my mountain legs, I guess. It's very much a work hard, play hard mentality. It's very much like you work all day and your feet just hurt. Oh my God, like your feet hurt so bad. I worked about 10-hour days on average, but when you're off, it's like you don't know what you're gonna do until the day you're off. And you and a bunch of friends will kind of plan like, hey, let's go to Canyon and go hiking, which is, you know, another little section of Yellowstone. By the way, Yellowstone is basically like a figure 8. I worked in Lake, which is kind of a more subtle kind of underrepresented population. It's basically, it's almost directly across from Old Faithful. So I'm gonna put up a map just to kind of give you a visual. So I worked in lake. We would occasionally go to canyon to go hiking. There's a lot of hiking trails in canyon. Some people would go up north into Lamar Valley to watch wolves. That was a really popular thing, but I would say hiking was probably the most popular activity that we did, which is really interesting because I think I heard a statistic that was like less than 10% of tourists in national parks actually go hiking in person. I've found that is where the magic is. Like that's, if you want to get to know a park or just a place in general really well, go take a walk there. But in terms of jobs, there's not just housekeeping, there's a lot of different ones. One job is a painter. I've heard that one's a little more chill. You basically just paint buildings whenever they're kind of starting to look, you know, a little drabby. Being a dockhand is another one. I've heard that you work longer days, but you get an extra day off, so you have a 3-day weekend instead of a 2-day weekend. I don't know if that was just only when I was there or if that's like a common thing, but dockhand is basically where you work on the docks. You know, dock boats, you help tourists with boats. I don't know much about it, but that was another really popular one. Reception in the hotel, checking people in, just basic thing, you know, basic kind of more secretarial kind of stuff. In the hotels, there's also different like restaurants and delis where you can work. I had a couple friends who were deli workers. There is no Starbucks in Yellowstone. There is gas station coffee and deli coffee. Oh yeah, and there's also a courthouse. I had a friend of mine who actually interned during law school at the courthouse in Mammoth, Yellowstone. Mammoth is like the most northern point of the park. The communication can't, because there's no internet, you know, it can be pretty terrible with different parts of the park for like, for example, laundry, you know, like towels and sheets. If they're behind, we're behind, the guests don't get what they need, we kind of catch flack for it when it's not really our fault. The equipment is pretty terrible. We have these really old dinosaur vacuums that don't even work, so you have to use the hose and like go up and hose all the carpets and stuff. It's little things like that, but if you want to get fit, that is a great way to get fit. I think one time I tracked 8 miles in a day just by working. So where I was, there was a hotel, which was more kind of management, breathing down your neck, kind of micromanaging just because everyone's housed in that one place, but it's definitely a very nice hotel. And on the other hand, you have the cottages, which is right outside of the hotel, and they look like little cute, adorable fairy elf cottages. That's kind of nice because you kind of get to do your own thing. You can listen to music. Unfortunately, you are humbled because you have to carry this literal mule cart of cleaning supplies behind you everywhere you go, and it's all on a massive hill, which is, you know, talk about exercise. There's so many different jobs. It's crazy. Oh yeah, and people don't have a normal schedule. Like you won't necessarily work a Monday to Friday schedule. I would have like Wednesday to, you know, Sunday as my work schedule, and oh, when's your Saturday? Oh, it's on Tuesday. Mine's on Friday. And it kind of gets a little, it starts to sound a little bit weird, but that's pretty common. And one thing, if I had to say something about the work environment that was really unexpected, that you probably wouldn't expect, is that sometimes, if you're out in the cabins, for example, like me, I was a cabin person, and you're cleaning, you have to check outside before you leave the cabin to make sure that there are no bison by your windows. Because sometimes people look out the window, they'll step outside the door, and there's just this big bison like staring you in the face. And for some reason, people seem to think they're like really large cows. Basically, it's a cow with a temper. You are literally living with wildlife. There's elk outside of your dorm room, like at the bottom of your stairs. You get educated on kind of like the proper distance between you and wildlife. So while I was there, I made a list of 16 things that I learned during my first season, because I went twice, in 2017, 2018. They're not kidding when they say work hard, play hard. The rain here lasts for 10 minutes. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. It'll randomly rain at like 2 in the afternoon for about 10, like it's gonna be like downpouring, and it'll be done and over in like 10 minutes. You wouldn't have even known. Your feet will always be dirty. If you're walking on gravel, if you're hiking, if you're working, you're just like, don't get a pedicure. Just like let them go. Just let them go. Let them grow. 4, it's not uncommon to go hiking after a full day of work. Some friends and I climbed Avalanche Peak after working for like 8 hours. We got off early that day. We went hiking. It's very common. The mosquitoes will eat you alive. There's an ungodly amount of mosquitoes. 6, eating the pizza at the pub is the greatest thing ever. We had a pub that was pretty much like one of the main hangout spots for people to like go, party, unwind, hang out, relax. Sometimes they would have music playing. People would come and play their guitar. Some guy came in and started singing Yellow Submarine. That was a good time. Pub pizza. It's just So good. 7, there's an incredibly diverse group of people working here. A lot of them are pretty cool. You get a lot of internationals in Yellowstone National Park. We've gotten people from Indonesia, Thailand, Italy, China, a lot of people from China. A lot of them have to do with like work-study programs, but it's extremely diverse. We had a friend who was in a Native American tribe. It's very, very, very diverse. It's really cool. 8, you'll make friends from all over the place. You'll make some great connections. 9, the gift shops and general stores around here sell huckleberry everything. Huckleberries are like, they're kind of like blueberries. They look and taste kind of like them, but they're just prolific. They're everywhere, everywhere. I think one time I even saw huckleberry barbecue sauce. I kid you not. 10, you learn how difficult customers and guests really be. Asterisk, you also can tell a lot about a person based on the state of the room and what is in their trash cans. 11, you sometimes want to punch them in the face. 12, the saddest thing ever is to watch your friends leave. That is truly sad. When it's the end of their season and they gotta leave, that's really sad. 13, you may be inclined to do some risky things on hikes. In that case, don't tell your parents. If you're gonna tell them after. 14, the scenery here and at the Tetons is unreal. All of life is amplified. By the way, I forgot to mention that the Grand Tetons National Park is about, from where I was, about 2.5 hours south. That has gorgeous scenery, wildflowers galore. I swear to God, it's like you're in another country. 14, no, I already said that. 15, there's a lot of drunk people at night. They're just everywhere. 16, you make some of the best friendships out here. That is definitely true. Anyway, that's all I have for today's video. If you're interested in what I have to say, I'm actually publishing a book on the 2 seasons I working in Yellowstone National Park, so be on the lookout for that. I'm in the middle of trying to get that published, so if any publishers or agents are out there looking for a coming-of-age 61,000 memoir about Yellowstone, let me know. Honestly, the biggest thing you can do is just check out my stuff, follow me, become a subscriber. Be sure to like and subscribe to this video, and I'll see you next time. Go outdoors and drink water.